Cyborg Pirate, my name is Forrest Packbush, I'm the owner, and tonight we're doing a presentation on staying warm during your surface intervals. We're going to talk just a little bit about the staying warm during the dive and why it's important during certain aspects of the dive. So the first things that we're going to do, we're going to actually, I'm going to discuss the head first. So this is the only part that will actually go into the dive itself. The rest of it's going to be during the surface intervals, how do you keep yourself warm and the importance of it. But basically, depending on what study you read, there's a bunch of different studies that talk about that you lose anywhere from 10 to 90% of your body heat through your head. Well, take it for whatever you want. 10% or 90% is a significant draw of body heat. And when you're in colder water, obviously that's going to anticipate that quite a bit. If you look at the Dan studies, which since we're related to diving it's in and of itself, Dan says you lose about 60% of your heat through your head. So that's, again, cooler waters and underwater. So having hair, some people not, I apologize. Having hair does make a difference on that, but the importance of that is having a hood and diving with a hood. A lot of people don't like diving with hoods because they're not used to it. They feel restricted, they feel claustrophobic, whatever else. So kind of my key on it is find a hood that fits and dive that hood on a regular basis, so that way you're used to it, and not only when it's cold and then you have anxiety issues or whatever else that come up while you're diving the hood with feeling claustrophobic. So that's really the only thing I'm going to talk about as far as the diving portion of itself. One of the most important items that you can have during your dive, whether you're going to be long-term in warm water or even short-term in the cold waters, you're going to want some sort of thermal protection for your head to help keep it warm. I personally, having long hair and wearing earplugs, I dive a hood every dive. So it's just something that I'm used to and I'm comfortable with. All right, so the first couple things that we're going to get into, let me make sure I get my notes out here that I hid so strategically, just to make sure that I don't miss a topic here. I do like shooting from the hip. I don't like to read things, so we'll talk. And if I miss something, you might see me refer to my notes for that. But the first thing we're going to talk about is a little anatomy physiology. So that way we have a better understanding of actually why we want to stay warm, what the dangers of getting cold are, and how those dangers actually take place. So the first thing is we all know that when you're breathing here on the surface, you're breathing 21% oxygen, 79% nitrogen, right? So give or take a couple other gases, whatever, but for the dive industry itself, those are the gases and the fractions of gas that we're talking about. Nitrogen itself is an inert gas. Inert gas means it doesn't do anything in your body. You're used to breathing in 0.79 fraction of gas or 79% here on the surface, but every foot you go down in the water column, you're increasing that pressure. And so therefore, you're increasing the amount of nitrogen, because what's in your tank doesn't change, but the flexible container that is your lungs, that flexible container is what draws in the air that you're breathing. And the deeper in the water column that you go, your lungs don't change the amount of volume that they breathe in to fill them, but what does change is the amount of molecules that needs to increase with depth in order to continue to fill those lungs. And so that's what happens is you're breathing in a higher concentration or higher fraction of gas of nitrogen than you are normally doing at the surface. And so therefore, because there's that imbalance, your body is on-gassing that nitrogen. Nitrogen is what causes the bends. Any inert gas, actually, we can talk about helium, we can talk about anything else, but for diving air, nitrogen is what the problem is that causes the bends. So that nitrogen that you're breathing in at a higher concentration, the way that it comes in, you breathe it in through your mouth, oral pharynx, down into your lungs, where it exchanges at the capillaries, moves to the capillary beds out in your extremities, and exchanges at the cellular level there. So your cardiac or your cardiovascular system and your pulmonary system are the two major body functions that transport the nitrogen in, and it's also how it gets out. So where the bends take place is where you end up with nitrogen trapped in those body parts, and then they begin to expand. So a little quick example that I like to use, I did remove the labels because I don't want any major brands being upset that I'm using their brand without authorization. So first thing we're going to talk about is a little bit of gas pressure. Since I took the label off, I don't remember which one was which. Can we all agree that in this soda that there is a gas that's in solution.
Yep.
It's carbon dioxide, right? If I open that up, you can see that there's releasing the pressure by removing that lid. I've caused some bubbles to come out of solution. A little bit of bubbles, any harm, any foul? Are you guys panicking, having to hold it over the sink, try to catch it before it spills everywhere, or do any of the other things? No, no stress, no issues, nice, easy release of the pressure, and we have the gas that is escaping because there's not the pressure holding it in solution anymore, but it's evacuating on its own at a particular rate, which is anticipated, and again, we don't have any issues. Now, if I were to leave this sit here and come back tomorrow, how's that soda going to taste?
Flat.
It'll taste exactly the same,
I think so.
but it will be flat.
Oh,
but the
well,
taste will be
it'll
the
taste
same.
same.
I
It'll
gotcha.
be
I'm just
fine.
messing with it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
right.
so however, that flat feeling is going to make the flavor not as enjoyable because we're all used to having the nice bubbly soda, and what happens is because there's no lid on there, nothing to hold the pressure in, that gas escapes the solution and becomes a gas in and of itself. Now, I'm gonna have to try to remember which ones I do this with. We have this bottle here. So this particular bottle here, as it sits here with the lid on it, and it's pressurized, right? Because the gas that is leaving the solution has equalized in this little pocket here without the fluid, and it's equalized and it holds enough pressure to hold that gas in solution. This is essentially the way the lake works, or being underwater works. As you are down in the water column, the pressure that's on you holds those bubbles in solution that are in your skin, your bones, your cerebral spinal fluid, your brain tissues, your cardiac tissues, all the different levels. All that gas is being held in that solution because of the equalization of the pressure that's being exerted upon you, which is why we tell you to, when you start to ascend, you come up slowly. The reason that you go at a particular pace is all the scientists and everybody that's done all these tests and figured it out, Dr. Boyle and whoever else, has figured out that this is a safe ascent rate in order to keep that pressure, along with your respiratory rate, exhausting that inner gas and getting it out of your system. Okay, this is when everything's functioning and working correctly. Now, if I were to take this bottle and agitate it, you guys can see now the pressure's still on it, but what happens is I now have all of these bubbles that are coming out of solution. So again, coming up too quickly and agitating yourself, right? That's going to cause an issue. If I come back to this bottle that has not been shaken up, again, I remove the lid and I cause some agitation, irritation. See how there's more bubbles that are coming out? So you want to be careful as not to do that, because these are the bubbles that are still going to cause minor bends issues or minor DCS issues. So now let's start getting into being warm and some of the more of the anatomy, physiology of things. How many people in this room have been cold before? Okay. As you're cold, what do?
Shiver.
You begin to shiver. Is that a type of agitation?
Yes.
Is that a type of irritation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the worse it gets, the more agitated you get, and the more problems that you have, correct? Now, something else that's taking place inside your body that you may or may not know about, you're not going to feel it, you're not going to be able to tell me about it, but those that have an understanding of it, is as your body starts to chill, your body starts to shunt all blood and keep it in the core because it wants to keep your internal organs warm. It'll allow your fingertips to freeze. It'll allow your toes to freeze. It'll allow your legs, your hands, your arms, everything to freeze. Eventually, you get cold enough and long enough, you're going to end up with frostbite, and you're going to end up losing those, and that's because there's no circulation keeping you warm. This is a little bit beyond the dive level. We're not going to get to any frostbite issues or anything like that. However, what happens is because those blood vessels are constricting, and that's how the body is shunting that blood. Remember, the two systems that move and transport the gases through your body and any nutrients and whatever else is going to be cardiovascular system and the pulmonary system, right? Well, if you have constricted those vessels and they're not sending blood to your extremities and you're ascending in the water column, right? What are you running a big risk of? Getting bent, right?
Yeah.
DCS hit, because you're not off-gassing those tiny little bubbles that are in solution that become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you release the pressure, and then you end up with a DCS hit. They usually A lot of people have minor DCS hits and don't even realize that they have itching, irritation, marbling in the skin, those type of things. It happens to me all the time. That's usually something that you should be concerned about, but a lot of divers just don't even realize that it's happening to them. So being warm during the dive is pretty easy because you're usually physically moving and moving along. It's when you get to your safety stops for decompression divers. It's when they get into decompression. Now they're not moving; they're just hanging, doing that's where they start to. That's where the chilling starts to actually take place. So you start to get cold there, and then you run those issues because you still rise to the surface. Now, talking about our surface interval, getting cold on your surface interval. Now we're into the meat and the potatoes of why we're really here. The reasons that you want to be careful about getting cold, right, is because it causes cognitive problems, right? If you're cold, you're not really thinking about anything but being cold, right? You're not paying attention to how your body feels, whether you should be getting in the water or not, whether you are ready for a dive or not, which that in turn causes some anxiety issues. So you may have some anxiety issues that go with it. What is the number one thing that we should never do during scuba diving? Hold your breath. What causes people to hold their breath? Panic, right? So anxiety issues along with panic causes people to hold their breath. They do silly things, right? Whatever else. So those are some things that you want to try to avoid. It increases your cause of decompression sickness, which we've already talked about, which is the constriction of the extremities and shunting to the core, and then you end up with DCS hits that are usually going to be extremity. That's why people talk about their shoulder, their elbow, their hand, maybe those, or their foot, their knee. That's why they typically experience them there, because they're in the extremities. And there's a good chance it was because they got cold, right? There's a lot of different causes of DCS, but this is a big cause of it, and people don't even realize it's happening. You also run the risk of hypothermia, right? We're getting in the water, we get out of the water, we're on the surface, we're hanging out, there's a wind chill, and we end up getting cold, right? And you run that risk of hypothermia. And so that's a big problem with it. You run the risk of dexterity issues, right? Fingertips and feet not moving the way they're supposed to. How do you manipulate your power inflator, your dry suit, all different types of things if you are having extremity issues, right? You get caught up in monofilament line and you're trying to reach down and pull out your trilobite, or trying to pull out your dive knife or whatever else to cut yourself free, and you can't reach it, you end up dropping it, right? Again, more issues that come from being cold. So staying warm is very imperative. You also have the fatigue that comes with it, right? If you're shivering, you're burning up calories, right? You're burning up those calories, and now you're going to go on dive 2, and now you're tired, and you're swimming in the current, and you're cold, right? You start to do a lot more foolish things and stop caring so much about what's happening there. So I think we've talked enough about reasons why it's important to stay warm. So now let's talk about some prevention tips. We've talked about the main thing when you're being in the water: wearing a hood, wearing proper thermal protection, whether it be a dry suit, thick enough wetsuit, monitoring your times, those type of things, and going on how you feel. So let's talk about the surface interval itself. Big things that people do that make mistakes. Number one thing you should never do: never get in a hot tub. I know there are some liveaboards, even in warm tropical waters. There are liveaboards that I don't understand why they've got the hot tub. That it shouldn't be open for divers if they do. Dan suggests that if you are going to utilize a hot tub after a dive, it should be 24 hours after the dive itself. Okay, so let's talk about the reasons behind that. A lot of people, okay, so why can't I get in the hot tub? It really doesn't make any sense to me. Being in the hot tub is a rapid, saunas do the same thing, is a rapid artificial increase of body temperature. It does the opposite of being cold. It opens up all those vessels, right? Again, now you've opened up all those vessels, you've changed the pressure within your cardiovascular system, you change your blood pressure, right? And so now you have bubbles that are coming out of solution that are actually in your vessels and causing even bigger DCS problems, okay? So the big thing is avoid hot tubs, avoid saunas, avoid artificial warming. If you're gonna do a hot shower, give yourself about 20 minutes before you get into that hot shower, right? And keep it moderately hot. Don't make it so hot that it's gonna cause that major vessel dilation. These are the issues that you kind of want to avoid and causing those, so that's the number one thing. Another issue that you want to avoid, and Luigi got to see me do this the other day. I was wearing a dry suit, we were cleaning boats, I got done, went to lunch, and I'm still sitting in the dry suit, and I was drinking a cold soda. Guess who's sitting at the table in a dry suit shivering? This guy, right? So, cold sodas, cold water. You may want to try to drink lukewarm water, That's the one I'm really going to push, is the lukewarm water during your surface intervals. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. In fact, I have the coffee cup up here as a reminder. I serve hot coffee on the boat. Why is that? Because it warms you at the core, right? Keep that core warm, you'll start opening up and warming the other extremities. Whereas drinking the cold soda or the cold water makes the core cold and causes the opposite. Again, now we're going to start shivering and causes some problems. So I do serve warm coffee on the boat during the winter months. I don't do it in summer months. It's kind of, I don't know who wants hot coffee when it's 120 degrees outside.
I drink hot coffee.
Well, so there you go. I'll make a pot just for you.
Yeah.
So that being said, drinking the warmer fluids will help do that. Eating a hot soup. Some of the boats we don't. Luigi actually does make a hot soup once in a while, but some of the other boats that we go out on, they do serve a hot soup, and that's partly the reason behind it. One, that's another thing that you want to do is you want to keep your energy levels up. You want to have something to snack on. Again, if you're getting cold, your body's consuming energy. It's consuming those calories. You're going to want to keep that body warm, which is why we serve the snacks that we do, because they're a quick, fast metabolic increase, bringing those in there, whether it be the sweets or whatever that does that, but also the warmer foods that we serve, just for that reason, to help keep that core warm. So those are the things that you want to avoid: colder fluids, jumping in a hot tub, hot showers, saunas, those types of things. Some of the things that we actually want to do. Let your body do its job. It will thermal regulate on its own. But being on the surface, in fact, here's an example. When we're diving during the summer, I tell people, hey, before you gear up, you got your gear, you've got your wetsuit on, your dry suit on, even your dry suit, works great. Jump in the lake, cool off. Lake temperature is 84 degrees, you get out, the slightest little breeze will chill you, right? Bring that core temperature down. Well, during the winter months, or where you're diving where it's cold, or your extended surface intervals, that's the opposite of what you want happening. You don't want to be chilled. You don't want to be boiling hot either. But you don't want to be chilled during that surface interval, because you don't want it shunting to the core and constricting the vessels. You're still off-gassing during your surface interval. That's why we do a surface interval. Off-gas, get that imbalance of the nitrogen off, so that when you go do dive 2, you're actually able to stay longer. So a couple of things that we use, we suggest. This is actually my wife's storm poncho, but this is a poncho. I wear the same one. We have the tidal ponchos, and these ponchos right here, they work excellent. You put them on over your wetsuit, over your dry suit. They break the wind so that you don't have the wind chill factor that's taking place. It helps keep that body heat in there. So some people tell you, hey, peel the wetsuit off and dry off. So we have towels for that. However, who wants to put on a cold, wet wetsuit when it's cold outside?
Not me.
I don't. So that's something that you can do. You can wipe your dry suit off or wipe your wetsuit off, right? And then put the poncho on, or get out of that wind chill. That will help reduce that being cold. Drinking the lukewarm fluids. We already talked about your head. There's a lot of body heat through your head, right? Whether it's 10% or 90%. At a wet head with a wind chill, you don't have any hair, so your wind chill is not going to be as bad. It will be initially, but it won't be as long lasting, because you won't have what I have with the long hair holding that water on my head for a long time.
Wind tunnel tested, baby.
One tunnel tested, I tell you. So wearing a beanie, even a ball cap. Wearing a beanie or a ball cap will help keep that heat in, and again, allowing your body to do its job, let it thermal regulate on its own. It's not a rapid increase with a massive vasodilation, but it's helping retain your own body heat, so that the body is working, functioning correctly, and allowing those vessels to stay dilated at the rate they're supposed to be, not a rapid dilation, and continuing to get those bubbles off. So the big item that we also talk about is your venture heat. So this one right here, the venture heat is a heated vest. It's used for wet or dry applications. You can wear it under your wetsuit. Here's the thing with the heated vest. You get a lot of folks that buy it, they think it's an electric blanket and it's going to keep them warm like an electric blanket does. It doesn't do that. What it does is it has 3 settings on it: high, medium, and low, that you can change during your dive and during the surface interval. You don't have to unrobe to do it. It uses a watch. I wear the watch up on my arm, but it wears a watch controller that you can do that with. I suggest that you use this, and during your dive, you have it on low or medium, depending upon yourself and the body temperature or your tolerance to cold. Once you get out, or when you're doing your safety stop, that's when we turn it on high. Not during the dive itself. Safety stop I know is part of the dive, but that's not really the dive portion of it. That's when you turn it on high, right? Allow it to start keeping your core warm, or start to slowly warm up your core as you get out and do your surface interval. Careful how you get out, right? So hiking up the long shores at Lake Pleasant, or carrying a lot of extra gear and a lot of stuff, is going to cause you to agitate, whatever else. This right here will actually help reduce some of that because it's keeping you warmer at a slower pace. During your surface interval, the first 15 minutes of your surface interval, leave it on high. This is where this thing really, really shines, is on your surface interval. Keep your body temperature warming slowly, because it's not going to heat you up real fast, but keep that core temperature warm. This is why it's just a vest and works great for that. Keep that core temperature warm. Elevate it for about 15 minutes, then back it down to medium or low again, right? Continue your surface interval. You have your poncho or jacket or blanket or whatever it is you're choosing to use that's help retaining some of that heat and keep it in there, keeping the wind chill off, right? Again, natural body heat. And this right here will help keep that. Some of the advantages of keeping yourself, not just the health of it, the wellness of it, and avoiding injury. Here's some of the other things. You paid some money to go do that dive, right? Paid for your air fill, paid for your gas to drive out there, paid for the boat ride. Even if you didn't pay for the boat ride, you paid to get in the park or whatever else to go dive. And how many times have you heard people on their second dive go, this one's gonna be a little bit shorter because I'm already cold? How many have done that, said that, or been around people that say and do that? So that's where this shines, because as you are ready to do your next dive, you're not chilled, you're not cold. You're ready to go get in the water, you're ready to go do your dive, and you didn't shorten yourself and cost more money on that second dive or lost out on it. You got the full potential of the dive, ready to go, have that mental fortitude. You go, yep, I'm ready to go, no anxiety, cognitive abilities all there, everything's good, the body's feeling good, and I've been effectively off-gassing during my entire surface interval, not shunting blood to the core when I go do my second dive and I end up getting a DCS hit on the second dive because I've been chilled and been cold, but my computer says I'm okay, right? It doesn't know your tolerance or what your body's doing. These items will help keep you warm, safe, and your dive's more enjoyable. You guys, thanks for coming in tonight. Hope everybody had a great time, and take some of this knowledge with you. We do have sales and stuff that are going on during the evening, but welcome to look around, hang around, socialize, and get to know your neighbors, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks.